Hey Tiffy, welcome to the Mind Body Energy Project, everyone.
Oh, I thought you were just welcoming me. I thought that was kind of funny.
You are the Mind Body Project, Mind Body Energy Project. Welcome
I
to this.
thought you were going to stop at, hey, Tiffy, welcome. And I was like, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome to
Hello.
the what is this called? Yeah, Mind Body Energy Project.
It can be a tongue twister sometimes.
Yeah, life can be a tongue twister sometimes.
It is. I've never thought of it in those terms, but you're absolutely right.
It just came up.
Per usual.
Hmm.
So we're just off of the heels of, we had 2 weeks of joy talking about.
Hmm.
Is that right? Yeah, that
Yes.
was our last topic. And this next 2 weeks, we thought it would be great to explore creative channels, the energy of creativity. We're in a 3 month, we're in a 3 year. Three is the number of creativity, the
Hmm.
creative, the creator, and numerology. So hopefully, this will support all of us.
Yeah.
It's energy.
It
But
just came to mind that because we experience things all the time, like as you were talking about the joy one, I was like, oh yeah, we experience these things. Like this is great. I can't wait to get the
yes,
creative juices pumping.
well, it's interesting too now that I think about it. I mean, like saying the three in numerology and all of these things, you know, before we're talking, you mentioned how we create like in the birthing way, which
Hmm.
I'll leave to you to touch on. But it makes me think of like the Trinity or like mother, father, child, or, you bring the divine feminine, the divine masculine, and together they, it's like alchemy and then they create a
Hmm.
child, another being. Yeah, it's a pretty powerful number. And a lot of esoteric practices, like three is like the magic number. Like people
Hmm.
do things or say things 3 times.
Yeah.
Your turn.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking about how like so the number three represents mother, father, child, and how like that like keeps on splitting and exponentially like um what is the word that I'm looking for? Like it just keeps on growing exponentially, so it like never really ends, so it becomes this infinite process of the three.
It's like the divine keeps expanding itself
Yeah.
through like all of these expressions of life. But it's funny because I mean, you really think the end result of us, we are the embodiment of mother, father, because we're feminine, masculine, but
Hmm.
we're also simultaneously child. So like
Hmm.
we are the
All of it.
creator, the created.
Yeah.
We are the representation of one, two, and three.
Right. And I like to think about how so creating a child tangibly in this world and giving birth and creating new life, it's a tangible expression of being able to see like what we're capable of physically. So if we apply that idea to what it is, how we create things intangibly, and like we really focus our energies on that, like what are the one, two, three, like the one and two that we can put together to make three in our world? I mean, we think about
I think
like,
mind is one.
yeah, right. And where do thoughts come from? Like
Mhm.
whatever we see out in the world has begun as some sort of energetic push of a thought, and then it's like putting it into action of like getting the ball rolling on moving towards that which we're trying to create, and then all of a sudden it's created.
It reminds me of the intuitive mind. Like I'm thinking like, say like crown chakra or something like this. Like you tune into this like universal wisdom, your imagination, your higher mind, whatever that is not in physical form yet. And then that energy like pulls into like your passion, right? Like
Hmm.
down into the sacral. And then all of a sudden now it's like, oh, well, actually, it reminds me of because I talked about this before, but I look at the chakras as like as above, so below. So if we looked at the third eye and the sacral, they're mirrors of each other. So in the
Hmm.
third eye, if we have our intuitive mind, our imagination, and then we balance that with our passion, our creativity, that fuels the output, what we create in a tangible form. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the thing.
Well, as you were saying that, it was making me think about how like um when we can quiet the mind chatter and like the stuff that's coming up from the reptilian brain, and we
Mhm.
could get into like the part of our brain, the prefrontal cortex, I believe it is where like we can actually start to really logically think about things without all of this messy noise. And then we can go even deeper into our intuition, into the third eye, and come up with these like brilliant ideas. But if we don't quiet the mind, we'll never get to that point. So how important it is to get to that creative spot. And it also is making me think about, you know, a ton of like very successful CEOs, or like people who are just brilliant with business or have had major successes or like written outstanding books have always said like they have a meditation practice, they have a practice where they can channel all of that like chatter to dissipate. And I believe even actually, don't quote me, you can look it up, I have a book, it's probably in, I think Albert Einstein was even a huge proponent of this.
Oh
Like
yeah.
he couldn't have come up with the things that he came up with because they came from an intuitive place.
Yes. He has a quote about that, about
Yeah.
the intuition being like one of the most important things. Imagination
It's,
or
yeah.
intuition or both. Yeah, he's quoted about both of them. But you made me think of, I actually saw a episode about him once and talking about how he like journaled about getting insight. Him and Tesla spoke about getting like divine insights or information from
Yeah.
higher states of consciousness.
Yeah.
So
That's
I think,
exactly what I was going for, those
yeah,
words.
the
Thank you
higher
for
state of consciousness.
translating for me.
Well, but that's the really cool thing to think about, like, especially when we are inspired or if sometimes we feel stuck, like really considering
Yeah.
what level of consciousness are we accessing in our own field? Like,
Right.
are trying to create from a space of fear, of a space of whatever you have going on, or do you take the time to do things, practices that can heighten your state of
Mhm.
consciousness and get you in that like access flow of information? I think that's why too, like a lot of people say they get their best ideas like me in the shower, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
not, my mind isn't scattered. I'm just,
Right.
letting go. Or people do it jogging or, doing certain activities, people get a lot of clarity and inspiration. What
Yeah.
about you? Do you have like a thing that you feel you get insight?
Well, I have like five things just came to my brain, and I don't even know if I was able to catch them all in my notebook.
Mhm.
Um, but one was thinking about like forcing creativity. You know, it's like that writer's block syndrome where you like, okay, now I've cleaned my house, I've done all of my errands. Now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write because I got all this other stuff out of the way. And it's you can't you can't force creativity. And honestly, like that shit comes at the most inopportune times, because there's times where I have thoughts where I literally have to like pull my car over in order to write them down, or like do a voice to text to like try to capture this, because no matter how hard I think about it, I'm like, okay, this is brilliant, I'm never going to forget it.
Yes,
It goes away.
it goes a
And it's like a flash in the pan, and you have got to catch it when it shows up.
true story.
But the other thing that was coming up also was getting to that higher state of consciousness more easily. I mean, you have to like train it like a muscle. So I think people who are good at um, capturing those profound creative moments have actually put things into action in order to train themselves. So it's not so much that somebody is so brilliantly creative and somebody else is not. It's the fact that like somebody has worked really hard in order to be able to channel the energy of their creativity and know all of the things surrounding them that are going to get in the way of that creativity. So they focus on setting those things at bay, or knowing what they have to do to work on, like, this is what I know is going to interfere with my creativity. Let me deal with all of these things, because the creativity is natural and it's innate. It's there. It's just waiting to be seen. And it's all the other things that come in that, it's like a jungle that keeps on overgrowing. If we don't cut the jungle back, like, you can't get to that thing.
It's funny when you're saying that from the very beginning. The first thing that popped up, I wrote down, is how you personally create, right? And I think that's one of the things where we come into, like we talk about all the time, having an awareness of yourself and noticing like when you are in your own like good state of like flow or inspiration. And like you said, I do the same thing. I have to use the voice recorder on the phone. I
Mm-hmm.
carry a notebook in my purse because you never know when these insights are going to come through. But I think you also hit a good point of the balancing of like input, output, input. It's like this
Yeah.
dream, because a lot of us will like think, and we'll write down ideas, but then we don't ever do anything with it.
Yes.
And then we like say,
That's me.
yeah, but we say like as if it was somebody else's fault, like we'll be like, oh my God, I have so many ideas. I just can't, I'm just overwhelmed. But we never like discipline ourselves to focus on just one of them.
Yeah.
We're going to still be in our list, right?
Yeah.
And we can like discipline ourselves to say like, okay, what am I going to do with this? I've taken it in. What do I need to do to like
Nurture it.
nurture, bring it out,
Yeah.
in, out, this process of creating this thing. And it reminds me too of, masculine, feminine. Like you have to have that rotation of both aspects of yourself working together to
Yeah.
out.
And another, so when you say masculine, feminine, I'm thinking of like yin and yang.
Yeah.
I think that's
exactly.
an easier term maybe for people to like get it, because they think masculine, feminine can be very divisive if you're not really like examining what that means in this realm of speaking.
Well, listen, just so you guys know, it has nothing to do with gender at all.
That's
We
right.
are all comprised of both
Yeah.
feminine and masculine.
That's
it's
right.
how we exist. And the bodies that we're in just may be representative of either the feminine or masculine principle.
This is a PSA for an upcoming podcast. Yeah.
But all of us are comprised of both the feminine and the masculine. And part of this work is learning how to harmonize both aspects of that within us. And unfortunately, culturally, a lot of us have suppressed or, I'll just say suppressed.
This is going to have to be a podcast for sure.
Heck
because
yeah.
I've got some scientific evidence that is going to blow people's minds, maybe.
We'll
Stay
be back
tuned
on that one.
Yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
But if we use yin and yang, I think it's easier for people to assimilate. Like you see the yin and yang, it's the black and the white with the two dots and the opposing ones, because they are one and the same and they work together. But one is masculine, one is female. But if we take it back to yin and yang, if those are just the words that work for you, one is like a harder, actionable energy, and the other one is a softer, like internal, intuitive energy. And you need both of those things to be moving in order to create.
And it's just the same. I mean, as above, so below. You know, like what starts in the mind, you can't create out in the material realm without having first had that thought or that, intangible idea. It started in without form, and then you, through your participation, can bring it into form.
Good word.
And what's so funny is, because we're all interconnected, a lot of us plug into the same ideas and inspirations, and it's just a matter of who actually acts on them. So this, for example, there are several inventions that, it's been documented that different people were working on at the exact same time, and even put out the same things at the same time, that had like a different name or like a slight variation, but they were streaming that from that same, we're all in this one field of consciousness, right? Or how many times have you had an idea and you just sat on it, and then sometime later someone else comes out and you're like, oh my God,
there it is on As Seen on TV.
Yes, exactly.
Now they're a millionaire and you're not.
Exactly.
Been there.
And the only difference was they actually did the flow of the input output.
Yeah.
So
one cannot exist without the other. I mean, you won't actually get the yang energy of action and creating if you don't have the yin energy first, of like that intuition and the intangible thoughts that began it.
Nurturing.
And you could be all yin energy and incubate it, nurture it, and never actually like birth it. That could happen.
Well, it's funny, you remind me of like the visual I'm getting is like a seed, right? So the seed is planted into the earth, right? Let's say the seed is your idea, and it's planted in, let's call it the masculine. And then we put that into the earth, the feminine, so it can be nurtured, it can grow. But nothing's really going to happen unless you water that thing. Do you know what I mean? You can put a bunch of seeds into earth, but they're going to have, and depending on the type of seed it is, like how much light it needs, how much water it needs, there's still stuff to do. And so I think that's where we get caught up too, is like a lot of times you think like, oh, well, I put the seed in the ground, and we just expect the universe to take over, but we still have to participate in our process of creativity.
I like that word, participation.
Participate. So
Yeah.
I have to ask you, if you could
Yeah.
think of something that you did, like an idea you had and you followed through, like, do you notice, like, do you have your own system of flow that when we don't procrastinate, right? Because
Hmm.
we all fall into that sometimes. But what, when you don't, when you actually follow through, what is it that inspires you or drives you to,
Accountability.
like, for yourself, or you think someone else is waiting
Someone
for you?
else. Because what comes to mind first is when I make jewelry. So I make custom jewelry, and I my favorite part about it is when I have bridal orders or somebody wants like something specific made for somebody, and they're like, here are the elements I want added, here's how I feel about the person, this is what I want to include. So they could either give me like stones they want or designs they want, or they could say like, this is what this person is like and this is how I feel about them, and they give me total creative energy or creative ownership of this piece. And bridesmaids too, like the bride might have an idea and is just like, here's what the dress looks like, here's, gives me the inspiration.
Right.
And um and then I get into the flow of like creating this piece and like seeing like what are the dynamics of it that need to be added to it for final product. But um the truth of the matter is like, because this person's paying me money, one, two, they have a date that they need it by, three, like I need to create for them. That's what I gets me the closest to completing a project. So that said, I have a lot of work to do for my own self accountability.
Well, I think a lot of us are motivated by that, which speaks to, I think, even how communal we are.
Hmm.
Because I mean, a big part of even like the work that I do and like sharing with people, I love to share and hear people's stories and all of these things, but sharing also keeps me accountable to my own practice. And
Hmm.
sharing keeps me accountable to my own curiosity and exploration. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I am the same way. Like if it's something I'm just working on for me just because I'm interested, I might put it off. I won't prioritize it. But if
Hmm.
it's something that I know is going to be of support to someone else, or, I don't know, whatever. I'm going to do a class and it's going to be because people are showing up. Heck yeah, I'm all over it. And
Yeah.
for the same reason.
Yeah. And it was making me think too about I've joined I'm new to it. Well, it's also about a year old, a healing collective. And, working with my own professional life of all of this healing work, I've been doing a lot of work in the background, studying and like just, sharing off the cuff with random people or friends. But to actually like birth it and put it out in the world has been really challenging for me.
Yeah.
And as soon as I stepped into a building with other people that are doing it and I see their action,
Mhm.
it's it's revving up my action more and like my motivation to, because I have now, like I have support around me and I have energy that's moving in that direction as well.
Yep. And then again, like what you said, it makes me think of like how communal we are. So
Yeah.
that could be a really good thing too. I mean, sometimes when you are feeling stuck or there's something you want to work on and you don't know what to do, I think that's probably why too mastermind groups have become so
Yes.
popular,
Yeah.
and like different types of groups where people get together to work on the same stream or consciousness of creativity. And
Hmm.
that's a thing too. Like when we come together, we amplify. And I think it's easier for us to access higher states sometimes when it's two or more. I think that's a biblical thing. One of my friends always says that. I don't know. I
I
don't
know
know.
what you're referencing, but I don't
Yeah,
know the
but
word.
so it reminds me of like, say if we're in a group meditation, if I meditate at home, okay, it's great and it's good. But when you're in a group environment and everyone is sitting with the intention of, going into that higher state of mind, a lot of people have an experience of like a drastic sensation about it, or like a amplified experience that's very
Hmm.
different than when they're by themselves. So put that into going into like a creative circle where everyone is intending to be inspired, put out ideas, the input,
Yeah.
the input, the output, and you have this machine of many minds
Yeah.
circulating the one mind.
As you were talking about the meditation in a group, I was thinking, um, I don't know if it's like literally the energy that we give off as individuals that helps amplify like the higher consciousness state in meditation, or if it's simply that it's just inspiring us to dive deeper into our own personal capabilities, because it's probably a combination of both.
Yeah, I think it's both. I
But
think
it just was an interesting like thought, like different paths of the thought that when you were talking about it.
yeah, no, I think it's totally both, because it's the same as like when you think like a pep rally, or like anything where you have, or I think of motivational speakers, like you get a whole room of people be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Then all of a sudden the energy is like, bleh, it's like
Yeah.
buzzing, it's crazy. Or the same of, you get a group of people together, and it doesn't matter what the point of focus is, you're going to amplify the energy of whatever that point of focus is. And so, again, like it would probably be really cool to have like these very intentional mastermind circles, but like maybe instead of just a mastermind, like you get with a group of people with the intention of or lifting into a higher state of mind together first, and then going into I would show up to that one. That would probably be amazing.
So how do you channel your creative energy and make it actually like produce something out into the world, other than accountability from other people and community?
If you could see my whiteboard right now.
Yeah, I'm sure I get it.
Like my step one is like, yeah, I brain dump. So I do the same as you. I talk into the recorder. I have notepads everywhere, but I love whiteboards. So I have to like take whatever is in my mind's eye, and put it out into paper first. And I like the whiteboard because it allows me to keep it on my mind, but I'm not forcing the creative process. And so I like kind of keep things in my vision until I feel like, oh, yes, like something clicks, and then now I'm like ready to roll. Or like my whiteboard right now has a central element, and then ideas that have come around it or written all around it. So for me, it's kind of like a building process.
Yeah.
Just like dumping. And then a point comes where I feel like this puppy is ready to be plucked.
Yeah. Do you ever get overwhelmed and stop?
Heck yeah. Not in like individual projects as much as sometimes I get overwhelmed by the thought of all the separate things that I want to create and I want to do. And that's when I do have to like step back and take accountability for what am I directing my attention on? Because I could freak myself out about the 10 things I want to do, or I could step back and discipline myself to focus on one of the 10 things until it has its legs. And to be honest, it's not easy for me, because I'm more of like if I could sit and think all day and have other people create what is in my head,
that would be the magical key. Yeah.
But that's again where community comes in, because there are some people who are more heady, and there are some people who like to do more of the tangible. And yes, it's lovely if you can merge the two, but that's why a lot of people have teams.
Right. Yeah.
No business.
I lost my train of thought. Oh, I know. I like how you I keep hearing you say the word discipline. And I think when people hear the word creative and they hear discipline, they sound like they're direct opposites. It's like, oh, if you're disciplined, then you're not creative. And if you're creative, then you're this like, off kilter person who's just out there like, But
I think that's why you have to know your mode of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's an interesting thing to ponder. Like, are you over disciplined so that you're stifling your creativity, or are you so creative and you can't output anything because you're not implementing the discipline that might be necessary for that?
It's making me think of like music artists, right? The artist just wants to create. That's all they want to do. They want to deal with the marketing, promotions. How do I create the album? They just want to perform,
I just want to be the talent.
Yes, I just want to be the talent and let someone else do the other pieces. So it comes again to like how powerful we are, and how much easier it can be oftentimes when we have support in our creative process. Like authors have book agents and publishers, you know what I mean? And even
Taylor Swift has like a small country helping her.
It's a true story. And, even some people, again, so I think where discipline comes in, I think, is for people who are working on something where they have to be the input and the output, where they have to literally play the role of both parts
Mm-hmm.
of, or all parts of the situation. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, in a lot of what I do, I am playing all parts. So like, I have to be disciplined to even do the
Yeah.
part that isn't my favorite or that I'm not necessarily inclined to do. But honey, if I had a team, woo, we'd be like a creative machine over here.
All in due time. In due time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We'll get our agent soon in our TV show.
Yeah. Honey, I want a social media person. I would
Oh
love like
yeah.
someone I could
Yeah.
just brain dump my ideas and they could put all my courses together for me.
Uh-huh.
Speak it.
We're just checking my notes to see. So we talked about the artist's way.
Oh, yes.
Um, should we mention a little bit about that book?
That's a really good book for helping to overcome creative blocks.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I should probably pull mine out again at some point, but
Yeah.
I like how it builds on exercises like we were talking earlier to know, be aware of yourself in order to know how you can help yourself um, groom the jungle,
Yeah.
for lack of a better analogy. But I like how the book starts off with the brain dump in the morning, literally to just clear your mind of the things that are not necessary to how you're moving through your creativity. And you can just get all that other stuff out of the way.
Yeah, for anyone who's not familiar with the book, it pretty much starts out with, I mean, it has a bunch of daily exercises. So again, I mean, it'll take your discipline and dedication to do it because you're supposed to, do some work
Mm-hmm.
daily, but it has, guided things and different exercises to help you clear your energy channels or think from different lenses or just whatever. It has a guided process for you, and it's a very popular book, and it has been for years for people who are trying to amplify their creative energy.
Yeah, and it's cool because it pushes you out of your box too, which I think sometimes we get boxed in of how we've labeled ourselves as artists.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm speaking to is there's like it tells you to take yourself on a date, like go out to dinner by yourself, like to push you into these things that would normally be uncomfortable, but to push you into experiencing what that is, it shows you how it opens you up to so much more creativity. Because I think a lot of people have we even touched on the importance of moving energy when it gets stuck in our bodies?
Yeah, I think we should do the mind
Yeah.
body energy thing, but I just have to say, because that in that book, that was one of my favorite things was taking myself out on a date.
Hmm.
And it was the first time I went to a movie by myself.
Hmm.
And the movie I went to see was, I think it was called Libertine. It was Johnny Depp, and it was the worst movie I ever saw.
You're like, well, this
It
is the
was
worst date I've
terrible.
ever been on.
Oh my God. But it was so funny. I'm like, of course. I mean, it makes sense that I went by myself. I mean, because I would have felt bad if I had made anyone else come to that
Yeah, that's funny.
thing with me. But yeah, I'll never forget. It was the first time I went to the movies by myself, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah. But and we do need to come back to discussing the importance of repressed energy. Um, but this kind of speaks to that. We do repress energy, or we have repressed energy our if our line of sight is narrow
Yeah.
because we've fallen into a comfort zone, or there's things that we're afraid to do or we're not comfortable doing, such as going to a movie by yourself or going to get dinner by yourself. And by really pushing yourself into those zones, you get a different experience and a different feeling. And then you might see like, oh wow, this is a whole nother side of me. And I do think there's a lot of people that are like, oh, I don't draw, I don't sing, I don't dance, I don't cook, because there's this disillusionment or labeling of like I'm bad at it, like I'm not an artist, I'm not creative. And I think that's very detrimental to our whole being, because like we said earlier, we are at our core creators.
Yeah.
So labeling what creativity is, there isn't a label for it. Everything that's around us is created. So by changing our perspective and our focus that everything around us is creative, and it's not just drawing or being some sort of quote unquote artist, you know, that frees
Well,
up
even
our
bringing it just
system.
even to like the most basic level, I mean, you're creating ideas all the time. You're
Hmm.
creating mood. You're creating energy. You're creating like, when people are coming to your home or you're going to work, you're creating the intention of the space that you're contributing to. I think you're right. And that's why language, in a lot of ways, I'm like, just blow it all up. One, it's funny to me that we have words that just mean other words.
I want to
That's
quote
one
you.
thing.
It's funny to me that we have words.
No, but words that mean other words. Do you know
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah.
well,
That is so profound.
why? What does that word mean? Well, it means this other
Yeah,
word.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And
So
then sometimes you get tripped up trying to explain it. You're like, I don't know. It just is. It like means those other
yeah, it
words.
just means those other words. But the other thing, though, is that with definition, we can be very rigid. And so a lot of times we limit our idea or
Hmm.
possibility because of language. And it's not the words that are limiting us, it's our rigidness around them.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, just to kind of expand this, I mean, just like what you're saying, the word artist doesn't mean that you only are a musician or working with a paintbrush. Like, you could be an artist of energy, you could be an
Yeah.
artist of thought. Ooh, you
I
could be
I
an
had an
artist of
epiphany with
anything,
that.
an
Because like
artist
I
of
said, the artist of what?
breath.
Oh, I had an experience with that that kind of blew my mind. And one of my cousins is very artistically talented in that, like, he's very good at drawing and painting and graphic design, like, brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up next door to him. So, like, I was always seeing this kind of stuff and I drew, and, like, it was mediocre at best, not compared to his. So I was like, oh, clearly, based on these two pictures, he's an artist and I am not.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, 2 decades later, I had
You
a
went
bunch
to
of my jewelry with me. What did you say?
I said, then you went to a museum.
Oh, yeah, I know. Museum of Modern Art. I was in the beauty of the beholder, and so is meaning.
Yes.
Um, but somebody had said to me that I was carrying my jewelry and I was going to this show, and they were like, oh, let me see your art. I was like, I got jewelry in here that I use my math brain to configure so that it works with physics. Like, what? You must be mistaking me for somebody. And she's like, no, your jewelry is your art. And I remember that moment being like, what the?
Did it blow your mind?
It did. It did. It was
That's
a
so
total
funny
come
to
to
be
Jesus
hearing
moment.
that. I'm like, how would you have not thought that? I mean, it's artistic the way. If you
Well,
guys have not seen her jewelry, I mean, she makes a lot of different styles. Maybe when
yeah.
we do our group discussion, you should wear one of your malas, and I'll wear the triangle,
Okay.
that one that I love that you
Yeah.
made for me.
Yeah.
It
But
takes
it
a lot
lends,
of creativity to put those
uh,
elements together.
and that speaks to the stories that we tell ourselves
Yes,
that create the blocks.
right.
And when we create the blocks, the energy sits inside of our body and generally it just fucks us up,
Yep.
which is why this conversation that we're having about creativity is so important.
So let's start with mind then. Okay,
Yeah.
so the mind aspect of creativity, it's interesting being in this we're in Pisces season, and it's like, ooh. I always think of Pisces as like the dreamer. It's not linear thought. It's kind of, it feels like poetic thinking, descriptive and metaphor, and oh, very creative. But yeah, I think for me, I in the mind aspect, in my mode of creativity, I have to allow myself, and I'm Aquarius, right? So I like to think outside the box. I don't like to limit myself by the ideas of other people or by language, or like, I'm what if everything? What if this
Yeah.
is different? What if we look at a different angle? What if, what if, what if, what if?
Hmm.
So that's how my mental part starts going. The possibility of things is what starts to inspire me. What about you
Yeah.
on the mental level?
The mental level. Yeah, you're right. It's the same for me, the possibility and the what ifs. And I get really frustrated when I get shut down by narrow thought patterns.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, but none of us really know. Like, there's no hard and fast lines.
Right.
So, like, but I understand we need it, like, some people have to be hard and fast lines to like actually create. Because then if
Yeah.
we're over here just being like, oh, but what about this? And like we keep like trying to grasp for this thing that we can't create. So there is a balance to that. But mentally with using the mind, what comes up for me is like, again, my of the MBE project, Yolanda pointed this out to me recently, and I've been thinking about it because it makes a lot of sense. I have trouble with the mind aspect of the mind body energy project. And it's getting over that mind chatter of like, yeah, you're not going to do that. Nope. It's the very self-limiting part of the mind.
Yeah.
That's challenging for me. So that stops my creative flow.
And that's the beauty of this work, that I always think like how fortunate we are when we come into the awareness of what our personal challenge, or how we may be restricting ourselves, because the only way we can get it out of the way is
Yeah. I'm laughing because I just saw it as like, you could keep walking down this hallway of closed doors and just, you'll get to the end,
Yeah.
you'll get to where it is, your destination is. But like, here I am opening the doors and peering down another freaking long corridor where I'm like, oh, now what? Like, this door is my block, and I look into it and I'm like, oh, what now? And then I got to go all the way down that one until I come back to the main corridor. And then I go into the next one and go all the way down it. It's true. You're right. It's true. However, it is a long, sometimes daunting, however, most importantly, rewarding process.
Well, it's funny that what you're saying, that it reminds me of how you're saying the limitation, but we still have to have containers.
Yeah.
It reminds me of astrology, thinking about the different modes of the signs.
Yeah.
So how some signs, they're cardinal signs, they're initiating energy, right? They start it off. And then we have the fixed signs that more contain things and get things kind of, hold it together. It's not as wildfire. Mm-hmm. And then we have the mutable signs, which are the ones that modify. So it's like we initiate, we like hold steady, probably, process, think about it, and then we modify, and then we go again, initiate, contain, modify. And I think that's how we all work, but we may forget one of our own steps, and that's where we hit a wall. Mm-hmm. So, okay, everybody take a minute after we're done talking and think about your mind part, the mental level for you and creativity. What gets your mind going? Is there anything that stimulates your mind? Like, what gets you excited on the mental level? Let us know. Mm-hmm. Okay, body. What about the body part, physical part for you?
So I think it's very important, obviously, to move our bodies, because our body is energy. It's matter that's been slowed down to the point of which it has formed things that you can touch.
Right.
Matter. And but even though it's matter and it's this dense, it's still energy, and things still need to move and change. I mean, we eat food, it goes in our body, it goes through a change, it goes through transformation into other matter. But like, nonetheless, it's something that's changing form, and yes, it's doing something for our body. So I think, obviously, I didn't even mean to go down this road of nutrition, but like, since we got there's that. So clearing out our bodies the way we clear out our minds with meditation, it's really important to be healthy in order to keep that energy free flowing. And then obviously exercise, or just moving the body, like understanding how movement in the body makes you feel physically and emotionally, because it's moving the energy. We're told like, oh yeah, you have to run and lift weights if you want this certain type of body, or if you want to stay healthy. But if you start to think about it more from an energetic perspective, there's a lot more freedom in it, and there's a lot more reverence for our existence and then thereby our physical health. But like, just even dancing, like sometimes I put headphones on and my workout is just dancing stupidly in my room in order to like shift the energy and just observe how my body feels. Like, did that do the trick of what I needed? And oftentimes it's yes.
I know, I love music for that reason. It's interesting when you say mind, because not mind, with body, I was thinking about how yoga, when I did yoga teacher training, I never had a clearer mind. And I think it was part of that, the movement and like moving my body, or even like sometimes people go to a walk, but you go to walk to clear your mind. So it speaks again to that mind body connection, right? And how the asanas in yoga, like we talked about in our yoga thing, the actual movements are preparing you for meditation. Like the movement is preparing you to sit and have clarity of mind. So I think that's a really important thing to point out. Sometimes when we do have congested minds, how much movement can really support us and becoming more clear. But you also were talking about changing form. And I know you were talking about it from a nutrition standpoint, but when you said that, it struck me too, like recognizing that your ideas can change form from the intangible into the form, until tangible form. And so when you do have ideas, even thinking about that, like how can I change the form of this thought? Like how can I bring this thought into the material realm? Do I want to bring this thought into the material realm?
Yeah.
And what is this thought attracting, or what am I creating based on these thoughts that I'm having? I know I went back to mind, but
yeah, that's okay.
it made me think of that.
I'm going to bring us back to the body.
Okay.
Because when we move our physical body, it's dancing, exercise, walking, whatever, one of the things that, you know, we think about, we're eating properly too, everything fires more properly. Like nerves become unblocked, blood flows more efficiently through the body, hormones start to balance out, like all of these super important things that actually like gets our system working at its fullest and best capacity, most efficient, the way it was designed to do it.
Yeah.
And then another thing that came up too, when you're talking about movements, there's a lot of work that's been done with like bilateral movement. So like even just like when you walk and when you think, the way that messages come into your brain, I'm not going to quote it all properly, but
Have you heard about that in reference to the labyrinths, like walking a labyrinth, and because you're turning from right to left, back and forth?
Actually, no.
Look that up. It'll fascinate you.
Yeah, it was totally different. There is therapeutic work out there called EMDR. It's eye movement.
Those lights.
Yeah, like you follow. Yeah, as you talk to somebody about a traumatic incident, you follow this thing that moves back and forth. It sounds like hypnotism, yes. But it's actually like getting your brain to be just kind of distracted with the simplistic movements of our body. And it works the same. The woman who discovered this EMDR, it's because she was walking and she was thinking and she found healing with that. So she was like, what is it to this movement while I'm working through this trauma? And it's actually about how the messages come into the brain. So when
it reminds me of how people pace back and forth. You know, when people are like,
yeah,
and they're really trying to get it, and they just, naturally.
Because the body knows, like, I need to do this in order to help this person like work out the energy properly. Yeah.
Well, you have to look up the labyrinth thing. You'll really like that too, because it's like it's activating our left and right brain, like partially because we're moving, but because you're literally like turning your physical body. Anyway, you'll see.
Clearly, like the body part of the MB project is my favorite.
No, and that's what I was saying. I was like, it's funny. I don't want to leave this. I want to stay here
forever.
I went back to the mind, and then you brought us back to the body. That's why I laughed, because I was like, you see,
yeah.
The body is my
avoid.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to where you and I meet.
Yes.
Energy. So the energy part for me, like I said, I look at the chakras as above, so below. So I like to think of harmonizing which lower chakra with the corresponding upper chakra. So in terms of creativity, like I mentioned in the beginning, I think of the third eye and the sacral, and both of them have to do with how we perceive things, but it also has to do with, one is our imagination and our intuition, and the other is like our passion, what fuels what it is that we are creating. So, I mean, you can even do something like meditating with your awareness on both of those chakras simultaneously, and consider how to harmonize your intuitive mind with your passion, how to harmonize the way you're perceiving things through the intuitive mind and what you feel. Like, what happens when you harmonize these two, and then the inspiration or the drive or the will that comes up around it.
Yeah. when I think about the energy of it, it's hard for me to not like immediately move into both the mind and the body, because the energy is the base form of everything, and it moves into all of these other categories.
Oh
So I
yeah.
like that you use the word harmonize, because the energy is like harmonizing the energy and finding a balance and finding like diffusing it properly to all of the different channels is what I think of, because it brings us to a homeostatic place. And I feel like where homeostasis is where like, you know, I don't even know if everything around us or in our body was just homeostatic, like if we would just like disappear because it's all that we're working for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Lucy.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I cried in that movie.
Yeah, I know. It's
I
good.
did. Like, why are you crying? I'm like, because you don't understand.
Yeah, but
Well,
like,
we are. If we went back to using our full capacity, if we knew, we'd just be
yeah,
this.
right. Yeah. And I don't even know if I can get the words out from the way I feel about this concept,
Yeah.
but it's like the divinity is in the balance of the energy. Like
Yeah.
it's all right there.
Yeah.
That's where everything is. Everything.
Yep. And it's
So,
funny. It reminds me of too how they always say like the wisdom is there in plain sight. And we've talked about this before. How sometimes it's just so simplistic to us that we bypass. Like we don't, like, oh, like we're saying, pay attention to your body, move your body. Kind of like, bore, snore. Like, oh yeah, and watch your mind. Pay attention to your thoughts and do things to nurture the flow. Your bore, snore. Like we're so results driven, and even in our stuckness, there's like this programming where we're so stuck in result driven that we will
yeah.
even sometimes seek someone else to create for us because we refuse to do the steps to amplify our own creative nature. Do you know,
Yeah.
like, we're funny.
Yeah, we are. We are.
We're really funny
Certainly.
beings.
Yep. But which brings me back to the thought, like, I feel like we outsource a lot because it does get overwhelming, and we are only like, our spirit is so expansive and our physical body is what it is, so it gets to this point where like, yes, we do feel overwhelmed. Yes, we need to outsource because we are a community. And I completely lost where I was going with this idea.
I was just so afraid that you were going to say, um, I'm going to bring it back to the body. I was like, really?
No, 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 no.
No.
Damn it.
Okay,
I got so hyped up.
then I'm going to ask you something.
Okay.
So, because we're almost, we're wrapping it. What
Oh.
are maybe like 3 steps, just to put it in a sequence, would you recommend for amplifying your creative channels? Like 3 easy things.
Do they have to be like sequential steps?
No, just whatever you
Okay.
recommend. 3 things.
3 things.
Our number.
Brain dumping, for
Mm-hmm.
sure. Brain dumping, meditation. This sounds silly because it's everything that we've already talked about. Brain dumping, meditation, and body movement.
No, I think it's good because with all the conversation we've had, now they're like, wait, what did
Yeah.
we talk about?
Yeah.
Talk about
And I'm not saying those things because it's everything we talked about. I'm saying it like we talked about it because those are the things.
Yeah. So, okay, brain dumping, meditating,
Meditation.
and moving your body. Those are really, really
Mm-hmm.
good ones. Okay,
Yeah.
mine would be to challenge yourself to think with a bigger lens, like allow yourself to sink into possibility. Like, what if it is bigger or different, or something is possible beyond what you've seen or thought or been told, right? What if something's possible beyond your current idea or limiting belief around it? So play with possibility, imagination. I would say then maybe look for support, like see if there's someone like you could bounce ideas off of, maybe your mastermind group, or create one, or ask like a couple friends to, let's talk about this. I need to bounce some ideas and, whatever. And then meditation. I have to give that one in there too. Wait, were mine all mine?
Yes.
Dang it.
Well, I talked about community also. That was an important one to me as well.
Okay, well, they already know. Like we said, move. So
Yeah.
walk to your mastermind group.
Yeah. uh,
Oh, as
good.
always, like, we always hope that something in these conversations inspire you, but I
Hmm.
really would love to hear what comes up for you all around creativity.
So would I.
What's your mode of creativity? What inspires you? Do you feel like you're a creative person?
Hmm.
If you do, why? If you don't, why?
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say that too. If you don't, why? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think until we get those thoughts of like that keep ruminating in our brain and just taking up space up there, until we actually say them to somebody or write them down and get to look at it a second time, or like get it reflected back to us by somebody else, it's like, that's a dumb reason, you know?
Yeah,
It lives in a world of illusion up here, but when you get it out into like the reality of it, you're just like, that's not good enough.
right. We're really, again, we are so interesting. And oh, I would even
Did you
challenge you
just
guys.
toot our own horn and say we are so interesting? Oh,
No, I
not
meant
us. Like,
people, like humans.
I just that's I was like, whoa, Yolanda. I'm
Well,
like, I know this
Tiffany,
is a good podcast, but woo, okay.
Tiffany, we are fascinating. No, no, no. But I was gonna say too,
Listen to us. We're so illuminating.
right?
No,
We're
you're right
such a
though.
mess.
But then I remembered too, I was like, yeah, I say this all the time. Humans are something special for sure.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah.
It maybe just to even like contain it a little more for you and bring it when you come to join us for our community discussion. Write down the 3 areas for yourself as it relates to your process of creativity. So let us know what you do for the mental aspect, the body, the physical,
Mm-hmm.
and the energetic. And if you don't have something you already do, what's something you think would work for you in each of those categories?
Mm-hmm.
Let's share.
Yeah.
Maybe our community discussions are like our mastermind groups.
Ooh.
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 Well, I love the Mind
As
Body
they
Energy
grow, they
Project.
could be mastermind groups.
Yeah.
Maybe we have a mind body energy project mastermind group forum. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, talking about creativity, here it all comes.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. So if you do want to be a part of our bigger mastermind, we do have the Mind Body Energy Project Insiders, which is a
Mm-hmm.
monthly membership. And you can learn more about that at patreon.com/MBE project. And with your membership, you get access to bonus content for us, including a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can read
A
all
lot of
about it
confessions.
there. Yeah, a lot of confessions. Really get to know us. But yeah, and also your membership helps to support the work that we're doing and the
Yeah.
information we're providing, and some things we would like to do in the future for this community. So we appreciate everyone who is a member now, and if you want to join, please do.
Mm-hmm.
You can also, if you forget, just go to mbeproject.com and you can get all the information there, as well as like the YouTube, the podcast,
How to contact us.
how to contact us.
Mm-hmm.
Check out Tiffany's jewelry, which we'll be wearing next week if we remember. All of those good things.
All of it. Yep.
Okay, Tiffy, is that a wrap for
That's
creativity today?
Yep.
Let's go be creative, love bug.
All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.